Now, The Sopranos is one of the best shows, if not the greatest shows of all time. However, I have seen online discussions, and people compare, say for example, the Game of Thrones ending and The Walking Dead, and put it in the same category as The Sopranos, which surprised me as that would mean the ending would ruin the show. So I want to look at arguments for and against if the ending was that bad. Now, for it being bad, the most obvious is the fact that it just ends in a seemingly unsatisfying manner. Most TV shows, if not all TV shows, are all about build up and a payoff. Take, for example, Breaking Bad's episode Ozymandias. Throughout the show, Walt manipulates Jesse and has avoided Hank, and lied to his family. And in that episode, Hank is killed, Jesse is kidnapped, and Walter is made to go on the run. Well, in The Sopranos, the whole show is built up to this point about the downfall of Tony Soprano, and the gradual build up to his death. And the final scene, to some people, is just a slap in the face. As to many, this is the greatest show of all time, and to end it like that is very, very annoying.
But some wanted a nice, neat ending.
What I would have liked to have seen is him and Carmela run off to Italy and hide forever or something.
And another thing is that it could be seen as the creator not knowing how to end the story, as they have built up this story for 8 years. And, of course, the ending, because he doesn't really have a clue how he's going to end it, and thus its abrupt nature got on people's nerves. As most even thought their own TV stopped working, but then realised that was how it's supposed to end. And many people complained about it not resolving everything. What would happen with New York? Why did Carlo flip? How bad were Silvio's injuries? And is he going to survive? And I think for most people, it just got on their nerves and just disappointed them.
I was a little disappointed. I felt like after all these years we were faithful. I don't feel they were faithful to us.
Little disappointed, but I wasn't surprised.
And TV analysts say
And some were even more probably disappointed when the creator, David Chase, explained how the ending was originally supposed to go, which would have left some fans satisfied that weren't a fan of ambiguity in stories.
The scene I had in my mind was not that scene.
Okay.
Nor did I think of cutting to black. I had a scene in which Tony comes back from a meeting in New York in his car. At the beginning of every show, he came from New York into New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And the last scene was going to be him coming from New Jersey back into New York for a meeting at which he was going to be killed.
And when did the alternative ending first? Do you remember when it occurred to you? No. But not like it's not the kind of thing where sometimes I've spoken with showrunners who say, I know at the beginning exactly how my show's going to end, or by season 3 or whatever. It sounds like when you were writing, you like to stay 6 scripts ahead of where you were in the action.
Yeah, but I think I had this notion. I was driving down Ocean Park Boulevard near the airport, and I saw a little restaurant. It was kind of like a shack that served breakfast. And for some reason, I thought, well, Tony should get it in a place like that. Why? I don't know. Right. That was like 2 years before.
Now, for it being good, first off, and what's the most important, is this is how David Chase wanted to end the show. And Chase has said this about the ending. The ending said much more than Tony's face down in a bowl of onion rings with a bullet in his head, or taking over the New York mob. Tony Soprano had been people's alter ego. They gleefully watched him rob, kill, pillage, lie and cheat. They cheered him on, and then all of a sudden they wanted to see him punished for all of it. They wanted, quote, justice, end quote, and I thought that was disgusting, frankly, end quote, as he has never been afraid of going against TV conventions and not tying up plot lines. This is probably one of the most unique endings in TV history, and the bit about not tying up loose ends is that there has always been in the show, and the most famous example being the Russian, whether he did or didn't survive, and why they didn't go after Tony if he did. Another point is the idea of the audience getting whacked, in that it doesn't really matter what happens to the characters, as we're not really allowed to see them anymore. Thus, the last sound we hear is the singer saying, "Don't stop," like he represents us, the audience, not wanting the show to stop. The ending was also ambiguous and allows us to figure out what happened to the characters and if Tony died, and if he dead, who killed him? The members only guy, Rhiannon, Butchie, or even Polly? I think stories are at their best when they allow for interpretation and not a definitive answer. Also, it's not something that the show has never done before. Take for example Adriana, who we never actually see her get killed off, as it's off screen, much like how it could be for Tony. And lastly, it fits perfectly. The Sopranos, when it originally started, was a unique show with a very complex but sympathetic main character, but as the show goes on he becomes more monstrous, and thus the colour palette of the show goes from bright to a much darker and drab colours. And it's fitting, as the finale, the final colour we see is black. And we have hints about whether or not Tony is killed when he's told by Bobby about death.
You probably don't even hear it when it happens, right?
There's your friend in there, on the wall.
Listen to
You see, we had a quattro gatti. Tonight you...
And it's really what Tony deserves. The show wanted to show people how insane these characters were, and how the life of a criminal does not lead to happiness. Thus it goes wrong for everyone in the show, and just as Tony is about to have a nice meal with his family, so in conclusion, I hope I gave clear points for both sides and justified both of them, and why one side feels a certain way. And whether you like the ending or not, you have to admit we are lucky to have such a great show.
Oh yeah?